everyone, my name is Tori, this is Nova Life, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about books that I've been absolutely obsessed with. So I think I did this at the end of 2022. I think it was right at the end of 2022, and I loved doing that video. So basically, I picked like 5 or 6 books that I've been absolutely obsessed with in the last like 3 months, basically since the beginning of the year. I love doing this video because I just love to gush about the books that I've been loving, right? So not every book is going to be 5 stars, but the ones that are really highly rated that I absolutely love, I constantly talk about, and I constantly put in recommendations videos. But in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly why I love them. So let's just go ahead and dive in. So the first 2 books that I want to talk about are part of the same series, and it's technically the whole series, and that is the Boys of Tomin. So if you don't know what the Boys of Tomin are, basically it is a series. There's 4 books out currently. The first 2 books follows one couple, and the second 2 books follows another. So the first book is Binding 13. These are ridiculously thick books. Like, these are huge books, but it's Binding 13 and Keeping 13. I didn't want to pull down all of the books because they're really, really big, but Binding 13 and Keeping 13 follows Johnny and Shannon. And Johnny is a rugby player. He is trying to get into what I'm assuming is like the major league of rugby. I don't know. It takes place in Ireland, but Johnny and Shannon have this, oh my God, this beautiful friendship and this beautiful romance that is heartbreaking, but also heartwarming. And it is just, when I read it, I was obsessed. I have been obsessed with Johnny and Shannon since I've read this book. I read, I think, Binding and Keeping 13 in January. And these 2 books are so amazing. I think that what Shannon goes through is something that not many, I would say kids, because they're kids at the time. She's 16, 17, and he's 17, 18. So they're relatively young, but what they go through is very much like makes them seem very mature. So even though you're someone who doesn't like those kind of books where they're a lot younger, these 2 characters, they feel very much older. Shannon is actually being abused at home by her father. She doesn't have a lot of money. Her family is really struggling. I think they have 5 kids because it's the oldest who's not actually in the house. He left years and years ago. Basically, when he turned 18, he left because of the abusive household. Then you have Joey, who's the second oldest, Shannon, and then you have the 3 youngest boys, Tig, Ollie, and I forgot the youngest ones, but there's 6 kids, but 5 of them are very prevalent in the books. And Johnny meets Shannon at such a funny time in his life, and he really finds something to fight for. Like, he's been this rugby person that's so good at rugby and everything like that, but when he meets Shannon, he's like, there's more to life than what I was thinking. And just seeing their friendship grow in this book, because they do have a romance, but it's more of like friendship and stuff. And then in Keeping 13, you really get to see their romance, and it is so beautiful. I want to reread them, even though I just read them. I think these are beautiful. And of course, I have to mention Saving 6. So Saving 6 and Redeeming 6, which is the 3rd and 4th book in the Boys of Tomin series. This follows Joey and Aoife. Aoife. I always say her name wrong. Joey, like I said, is Shannon's older brother, not the oldest, but this book takes place before Binding 13. It kind of picks up when they're, I don't know what year it is, but they're younger. I want to say they're like 11 or 12, and you see the first time that they meet, and it is so funny. They have this funny banter, and Aoife like really does compliment Joey so well. Joey is dealing with a lot. This whole series has triggers like crazy. Joey, I feel for him a little bit more because you see what he's kind of thinking in Binding and Keeping 13, because he does play a bigger role in that. But when you see his book, you are inside of his head and you're getting his thoughts, and it's just, to me, even more heartbreaking, but I love it. So I have not read Redeeming 6. It literally just came out 2 days ago. I have the book on my coffee table. I am ready to read it. I just have to find the time to sit down because these are chunky books. This one's 600 pages. The next book, Redeeming 6, is, I think, almost 800 pages. It's a lot bigger than this book. So I'm ready to dive in. I just need like 2 days where I can sit down and do nothing but read that book, and I'm super excited. But if you haven't read the Boys of Tomin series, I think that it is so underrated. I want to say a big shout out to Nikki from Nikki and Bookland. I've messaged her already. She was the first person I heard talk about this book. And then I saw Zay from Witty Reads on Instagram. She was reading it too. And I thanked Nikki because these books were just so beautiful. They're characters that I will never stop thinking about. Like, literally never stop thinking about. They have made it up on my top books of all time list, and I love them so much. The characters are just absolutely beautiful. The next book I have is Right Man, Right Time by Megan Quinn. Now, you may know me if you've been watching me for a while, and you're thinking a Megan Quinn book is one that you've been obsessed with. Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely right, and I was shocked too. So who did I see first reading this? I mean, I saw some ARC reviews, but I usually just ignore Megan Quinn stuff because I just don't think her rom-com-y stuff is for me, which is fair. I've read quite a bit. I've read like 2 or 3 of her books, and I just figured that out for myself. And not every author's writing is going to be for everyone, right? I saw QB Tyler reading this book, and she was talking about this book and its age gap, and I think they're like 10 years apart. He's super grumpy. It's fake dating, like making your ex jealous type of a thing. And I was like, I need to read this book. Like, this sounds exactly what I need to read right now. And I listened to the audiobook, and the audiobook is dual narration, even though the chapter is in a female perspective. If there's dialogue and the male is speaking, the male voice will come in, which I really, really liked. But I just want to put that out there because it's a little bit different than some audiobooks recently, like duet style. But this book made me laugh out loud. I was walking around the house, working, doing things, and I was laughing out loud to the point where Brandon was like, "Are you okay? Like, what is wrong with you?" When I tell you I had such a good time reading this book, I just think that Silas is so amazing. But I loved that even though our female character was so much younger than him and she was still in college, she did not actually feel that young, if that makes sense, which is sometimes my thing with rom-com-y stuff. But this also takes on like really important things. Like, Silas is newly broken up after his girlfriend of 12 years cheated on him, but his hockey teammates don't know that. They just know they broke up because he doesn't want to tell people that. Like, it's embarrassing, I guess, to him as a man. He couldn't like keep his woman. I guess she cheated on him, which no one sees that like that. Just in his head, he thinks like that. So our female character goes up to him at a bar when she sees that her ex-boyfriend is dating her nemesis and is like, "I'm so sorry. I'm going to kiss you in 5 seconds, but I need to make my ex jealous. And I said that I was dating you." And he's like, "What the fuck?" Right? And then they keep this fake dating thing going because Silas's ex is starting working at the hockey team, like in corporate and stuff like that. So he needs someone to make her jealous. And they kind of have this really, really cool friendship that they have this like very intense sexual chemistry. Do you know what I mean? It's just it was so cool to see them have that super intense friendship on top of this really romantic stuff. And I will say, Silas is so dirty. I love him so much. The spicy scenes were so good too. Like, honestly, I was so shocked that Megan Quinn wrote this because I usually don't vibe with her stuff. But I'm super happy I read this book. I was in love with it. I just had to mention that one. The next one I have is In the Weeds by B.K. Borison. So I always say this, sometimes you read a book at the perfect time for you, right? This is this book. This book is not going to be for everyone, and I understand that. But for me, this was like the 3rd book I read in the beginning of the year, like the 3rd book of 2023, right? I was obsessed with this book. I was going through like personal things, and just some of the quotes in here, it was just what I needed to hear. I needed to read this story. I needed to read this love story, and I needed to see these characters go through what they go through so I can, relate to them and see that everything's going to turn out okay. You know what I mean? Sometimes, romance books, I just love that you can read that. And a romance book can do that to you. Do you know what I mean? It just makes you, feel better. Do you know what I mean? And this book was that for me. So this is the 2nd book in the series. I forgot what series this is called, but it follows a social media manager. She comes to Love Light Farms, which is like this farm thing, and she meets Beckett. They do have like a one-night stand thing before they know who each other is. Beckett works at the farm too, so she's there to spend the summer. They kind of have this really interesting friendship, which I personally really, really loved. It wasn't bantery. It was just like comfort. It was like a hug. It was just like so gentle and easy that the way that they fell in love, they just respected each other and could talk to each other and be open and honest, and they just understood each other without having to say too many words. And because they were both going through things and they were both trying to move and go forward and grow from those things, and they kind of did it together, and they kind of helped each other out, and they were just there for them when they needed it. And I personally loved this romance story, and I love this cover. I can't wait to read Mixed Signals, which is the 3rd book. I haven't gotten to that one, but so far I really love B.K. Boris's writing, so if you haven't read her, go check her out. The next one I want to talk about is The Choice by Ashley Jade. I'm going to mention this one very, very quickly because this is a little bit newer of a release, but if you've read The Words, you know Memphis from The Words. He's in the band with everyone, right? This is Memphis's story, but also is a prequel to The Consequence. So this does not end with the HEA. It is more of a prequel to what's to come. So this book takes place when they're in high school. They're really, really young. I don't think most of the book takes place like when they're younger than 18. So you see these two kids, Memphis and his foster brother, Josh. They are taken in by the same family. They are bounced around from foster home to foster home, but they just do well together. They're not actually brothers, but because they're in the foster system together, they have grown up together, and they do better when they're together rather than separate. You know what I mean? And this family takes them in, but the family that lives next door to them is our female character. What's her name? Is her name Sky? I think her name is Sky. Why am I thinking it's Sky? I don't know if that's actually her name, but she is actually being abused physically and sexually by her uncle, and her aunt doesn't really do anything. And so Josh and her kind of have a trauma bond. That's basically what it is. So they have come together, and then you see them, I think when they're a little bit older, like 16, 17, you see that they're still dating, but Josh is kind of like, pushing her to do like different things. He's bisexual, so he's like, oh, I still want to have sex with like men, but I know you don't want to do that. Are you okay with me doing it by myself? And she's like, I mean, I guess. What am I supposed to say, right? Memphis was the one who saw her first, but she saw Josh first, if that makes sense. So it's kind of one of those books where it's like, I feel something for you. I want to be with you, but you're with someone else. So he's like pushed her away constantly. And when Josh starts pushing her away, it kind of pushes her into Memphis's arms. This has a lot of trigger warnings for attempted suicide, suicidal ideation. It's both characters go through that when you go through something traumatic like that. That does come up in their thoughts, and you see that on page. Like I said, there's violence and physical and sexual abuse on page too. So just be wary of that. But I was obsessed with this book when I read it. I cannot wait for The Consequence, because the way that the choice ended, I was like, I mean, the choice definitely makes sense now. The title of the book definitely makes sense. But the way that it ended, I did not see that coming, and I need to know what happens in the next book. Apparently, the next book's going to be like 1,000 pages. I don't know when it's going to come out. Ashley Jade is one of my new favorite authors. I like her newer stuff just because I think that she has her writing down pat, and I love it so much. So yeah, that's another one I've been obsessed with. The next one is Offsides by Avery Keelan. I mean, come on. Everyone has been reading hockey romances, right? Like literally everyone's been reading hockey romances, and I am not the exception to that. I also have been reading hockey romances, and this and another book by Rebecca Genshak was the two books that like sparked my obsession of reading hockey romances. But when I read this book, I was absolutely obsessed with Chase. I think that Chase is the perfect book boyfriend, not book husband, but book boyfriend. So this is more of a rivals. Would you say that? Basically, our female character, she gets broken up with her boyfriend who plays on the hockey team with her brother, right? They go to one college. In the same town or the next town that's very close together, Chase is on the hockey team and goes to college for another college. So when she basically is broken up, I think it was at a hockey game, she sees him, and I forgot what they think. They start like bantering and bickering, and they just like slowly fall into this friendship. He realizes like, oh, everyone's treating you really badly, even though your brother's still on the hockey team, even though you're not dating someone on the hockey team. Like her roommates are treating her badly because they're dating hockey players, but because she's not dating a hockey player, they don't want anything to do with her. Tell me how that makes sense. Anyway, I just think that the way Chase takes her on ice skating dates and takes her on hot chocolate dates, and just, yes, this book is ridiculously long. Does it need to be this long? I don't think so. I gave it 4.5 stars. It wasn't a perfect 5-star read just because I know it's too long. And, I just know that. But he's like one of those people that like is a playboy turned perfect boy, if that makes sense. Like the perfect boyfriend. I loved it. The way that he protects our female character, the way that he will fight on the ice if someone talks shit about her. Obsessed. I love it. I love it so much. Oh, I want to reread this one too. Everyone that I know that has read it has really, really enjoyed it. So if you have read it, let me know. If you haven't, go read it and message me on Instagram and tell me if you loved it, because I would love to know. I would love to know if you're someone who also loved it. The last book that I just want to mention is not a new obsession, you know what I mean? But that's Credence by Penelope Douglas. So over on my Patreon, which I do have a Patreon, it's always linked in the description box below. I would love for you to join me over there. I do a lot of exclusive content. And one thing that I recently did was I had my patrons vote on which book they would want me to reread and vlog. And they voted on Credence by Penelope Douglas. That was the top winner. Now this is the French edition. Don't go buy this cover. But I had such a good time rereading that book. It is spicy, it is taboo, it is forbidden, but the quotes in that book really got me. And it's like 40 minutes long, that vlog. You can go, if you join my Patreon, you can go watch it now. But I absolutely love this book. This is one of my all-time favorite books. What does that say about me? This is one of my all-time favorite books. I don't know. what that says about me. But I love this book. I love all the characters. I love Tiernan. I love her story. I love her growth. I love just everything about that book. And I think Penn Douglas is a genius when they write. And yeah, I just wanted to mention this because, I mean, I've talked about this quite a bit. This is an oldie, but it's one that I've recently reread, and I've it re-emerged my obsession for this book, if that makes sense. These are just some of the books that I've recently been obsessed with. I'm going to try and do this every couple of months, probably like every 3 months, so every quarter, just because I will, make a list of 5 or 6 books that I've literally been obsessed with that stuck with me for the last 3 months. And if it stuck with me for the last 3 months, that means yeah, that's a good book to me. So drop me the lipstick kiss emoji, with the lips, like lipstick print, like you're kissing. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content from me. As always, I hope you're living a novel life, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.